My name's Ben Casey. I'm a football fan and I'm a designer. And my first memories of football was growing up near Deepdale in Preston, where the night matches when they're very exciting, when all these people in quite high spirits would turn up to this strange building that lit up and roared and groaned, usually groaned. Being a designer and working on football you'd think it would be a good match, but it can be quite difficult. We had a spell where we really did work. I worked in collaboration with several other designers and art directors in advertising, illustrators, and of course architects. But we got it off the ground and got it moving, but it's something that never quite works. It never quite gets there. We got so far, and with the change in management, I think it was because the chairman of the club at the early days understood it. He worked in brands, and he was trying to create a brand for Preston, and we wanted it to be like a cult club because we were going to be a big club. It couldn't compete with the large clubs, but nevertheless it had a long history and something about it that we thought if we did everything a bit differently, it would create that sort of cult status, and that came through design. It was it's sad now to see it being unravelled as the management of the club have changed, but we did make a big impact at that time. It was working very well, and as far as the design of the stadium itself, through its actual branding, really looking at the visual identity, including the badge, which, for instance, would have to work. It was briefed to work within the sort of modern demands of a logotype and on merchandising, so it was designed specifically for that purpose and was working really well, but for some unknown reason it just sort of reverted back. What could football clubs be doing differently? Well, I mean, just taking an interest in design, it's a bit disappointing really but it's like industry generally in a way that there's no designers on the boards of football clubs, because I think they do like imagination and creativity. You expect that on the field, but you also should expect it off the field, and you think one club would break through with that and appoint a designer to play that, to do that role, and maybe to do things differently really, because there is a tendency to do things just the same. One club does it, then they all follow. I think small clubs could have perhaps more to gain by a brand in a way. The large clubs have this all machine that's through the media which promotes them without much effort, and they get sort of worldwide following without having to do much. So there is a role to do there, and you think that design will be part of what they do, an important part of what they do, and that's sort of happening. As I say, in Manchester City, the actual stadium itself and the way that they promoted themselves has been more interesting than the other clubs. But the smaller clubs are probably something to say rather than trying to be a big club, than be what they are, in the way that we did at Preston for a while, and try to be a cult club and do things differently. And design is all, if you're at the forefront of any sort of innovation, then design is very much a part of that. But it's from just looking through, like any organisation, just taking a step back and thinking, what are we and why are we differently? We just don't wear a different strip. There's some reason behind a lot of things that we do, and now we've appealed to particularly younger fans to be part of their local club. It's a big argument there, rather than just following the large clubs on TV. And I think design could have a big input in doing that. What we did at Preston was to try and treat it like a brand, like any other brand. And so at that time, now we would probably start with a website, but then we started with the stationery, and we introduced. We looked at the logotype, which was to keep the the lamb, which is a crest of Preston, to keep the tradition, but the actual the formation of the words created a natural badge shape, so it didn't need a badge around it. It's the Preston North End FC came to a natural sort of point, and it was a large part of it. So that as far as which was big enough, the type was big enough to be recreated in print. It could be printed in a very small and would compete against the other badges when they're all seen together. It could be knitted, that sort of thing. And it worked very well. The also on the introduced a bit of humour in the stationery range. It had little our ref and your ref points with the drawings of referees, and the word net was right back. It was a right back. So it had little sort of figures dotted around the page, and it actually won the design station range of the year from a national award, not just for football, but for any year. So it was an interesting thing. We had a museum in the ground. We had all the features of the ground were design considered, not just getting the club colours and just painting everything. Subsequently, someone has got some blue and white paint and run riot within the offices and all the public parts of the terrace. But we try to keep that sort of feature it in like the concourses were a very it's probably not unusual now, but then it was to have everything exposed because everything was boxed in, to give it an industrial feel, again to represent the industrial roots that football came out of in the northern and Midland towns. So it's got a lot of heritage to go at from it. It's got a lot of things that designers can feed off, and so many designers are into football that they wouldn't take much persuading to get involved.